Hey, all you literary legends and luminaries, I'm Julie and welcome to Booksmart. Today I'm talking about my new memoir, Little Eater. So when I was 42 years old, my doctor said I displayed symptoms of disordered eating. Essentially, that means that I do not have severe enough symptoms to be diagnosed with anorexia or bulimia or any other eating disorders, but my eating and relationship with food is atypical, enough so that I would qualify with a disordered eating label. I didn't disagree since I was tiptoeing along the line of anorexia when I was a senior in high school. And then I had issues off and on up through my 30s. Yet it was strange because when I was little, I was called a good little eater. Both my sister, who was 4 years older than me, and I were called good little eaters. So what happened? Because this new diagnosis bothered me, I couldn't help but think, why is it still such a problem and how in the world did it develop in the first place? So I started thinking and writing down all those food memories, very scattered at first, and then I had so much material that I thought I might as well turn it into a memoir, which then became Little Eater. My memoir not only covers eating issues, obviously, but the stuff that I found contributed greatly to those issues, that of beauty and perfectionism. I hate when Karen Carpenter's eating disorder is reduced to a chubby comment in a published review that she read about their performance. Yes, such a comment can send us straight into the arms of an eating disorder, but there is so much more operating underneath it. It's very complicated. And that's what I tried to uncover in my own experience. So my book covers a relatively happy childhood, although I was horribly lonely. I soaked up the pop culture around me, so I write about wanting to be a solid gold dancer, MTV, Barbie, Madonna, Miss America pageants, all those images I saw of pretty women. I grew up in the 1980s. My book trailer captures such images that influenced my definition of pretty. So if you watch it, you will see a snapshot of beauty from the 1980s and 1990s. I have chapters in my memoir describing our monthly trips to the grocery store, baking, our visits to our grandparents' houses, and even holiday dinners. On the surface, it appears as though I have a healthy relationship with food, but I had one thing that bothered me from my earliest memories. I hated when hot food touched cold food on my plate. And so let me read you a part of this as I'm trying to deal with it in my younger age and then write about it and try to assess it in my older age. When I served myself, I took bird-sized spoonfuls. The serving spoon never scraped the bottom of the dish. I wanted no additional liquid on my plate. Only my roast beef or turkey could touch the mashed potatoes and gravy, but nothing else. I preferred slotted serving spoons, letting the cheesy milk drain from the mac and cheese or the excess water drain from the corn. Because Mom had little patience for my meticulous spooning, I waited until everyone else had filled their plate, although Mom still hurried me along. Such times would threaten my good little eater title. I wouldn't eat the part of the food that touched, and I would whine about why I couldn't. A whiny child at the supper table was everything a good little eater was not. Mom said, "It's fine, just eat it." She told me, "You're fine with every injury," but I still fainted if I bled. I knew I wasn't fine. Yet how does a 6-year-old articulate a complicated issue, one she herself cannot explain? That it's simply revolting to have a mixture of gravy and butter, and that new vile liquid is headed for the roast beef, and that once it all touches, it is inedible. So that issue, along with a feeling like I had no voice and being called solid, helped ignite my future disordered eating. Part 2 of my book deals with puberty. My older sister's puberty sent our household into chaos, and she took a lot of her fury out on me. I learned to be invisible and was very good at just disappearing, but that was difficult at the supper table, where my mother was very insistent we all eat together at the table every single night. As if that wasn't enough, I gained a lot of weight once I got my period in junior high. The weight vanished by the end of 9th grade, but it left its mark on me. I had a boyfriend that my mother hated, which caused a whole lot of trouble. And then my best friend moved when we were juniors. You'll have to read my book if you want to know all the drama that played out my senior year. But let me read you a part when I make this conscious decision that I'm just not going to eat anymore, which was easy since I had already restricted food since 8th grade. So here's what I wrote about that time as a senior in high school. Too old to turn to Grumpy Bear, I used a more adolescent approach to deal with my lack of control of my world. I stopped eating. It was easy not to eat, especially since I hadn't been eating much anyway. The hunger pains dulled once my body adapted. Even when my empty stomach growled, my mind emerged the winner, satisfied with my deliberate decision not to eat. When I let my stomach win, I made it wait. It became a game to see how long I could wait before I ate. 20 minutes turned into an hour, lunch turned into supper. When I finally ate, I still won the war with all the waiting I forced upon myself. Avoiding food was the best distraction from all my woes, keeping my mind entertained while my body starved. It was something I was good at. So perfectionism comes up a lot. I hate making mistakes, and I really beat myself up when I do make a mistake. Part 3 of my memoir is a relatively short part and deals with my college days when I had the freedom to eat whatever I wanted and whenever I wanted, yet the problem remained. Part 4 centers on motherhood and the other stressors I experienced during my son's first 6 years. In the beginning, I made supper every night. We ate at the table. My son was also a good little eater. All that stuff that I had grown up with, but life caught up with me. And so here's a part when my son is 3 years old and life has not handed me very nice things. I take full responsibility for my child's picky eating because one day I said enough. Stress caught up with me. No money, my husband's unpredictable vanishing acts, my family's wrath due to a gambling addiction that wasn't mine, my inescapable loneliness. My appetite had all but vanished. Some days I only munched on cheese nips or Twizzlers. One night for supper when JJ was 3 years old, I decided to make grilled cheese. Nothing to go with it. JJ and I sat next to each other on the couch, my sunflower blanket draped across our laps with JJ's small socked feet sticking out from under its fringe. SpongeBob's big yellow face filled the television. JJ giggled as he nibbled on his grilled cheese, setting it down on the plastic plate on his lap to reach for his orange juice box on the end table. Ginger lay beside him on the couch, waiting to lick the cheese off JJ's fingers. This was so much better than the dining room table. Only messy meals were eaten at the table like spaghetti and chili. JJ, once a good little eater, suddenly could live off grilled cheese and chicken patties, meals that didn't trap him at the table, finger foods that gave him the freedom to move. I enjoyed those meals more. Less prep, less cleanup, less structure. I was a horrible mother. So, part 5 of my book then deals with menopause and the horrible things that one cannot control about her body. I can't say I have a hopeful ending, although I've gained insight because thankfully that's the best thing about aging. You do get a lot wiser, at least in some things. So let me read you a part where I'm trying to rationalize my food intake and the choices that I make, not always wise about food, and the food noise that isn't as loud as it used to be, but it's still there, feeding off the uncontrollable menopausal weight gain. So here's what I wrote about all of this food nonsense, quite frankly, at times. But therein lies the problem. Food noise shouldn't be quieted by sizes of clothes or waist measurements, or that I can still wear a dress in my closet that's been hanging there for 12 years. It should be silenced because life is short and it's juvenile and counterproductive to partake in such self-criticism and rationalization. I can eat a donut because I like donuts. That doesn't mean I should eat them every day or binge on a dozen donuts at once. Moderation is key, as Benjamin Franklin knew hundreds of years ago. We have no limits, no self-regulation, either when it comes to food or the noise it produces in our head. Society lacked common sense during the Twiggy phase, or the supermodel phase, or the heroin chick phase, or the filters on social media, which unfortunately have not just been a phase. That's the society we live in, the society that defines what shapes and sizes are acceptable and beautiful. These beauty standards are based on surgical procedures that turn women into expressionless aliens with bloated lips and cheeks. We waste time comparing ourselves to such impossibly ludicrous standards. And it's only worsening as skinny celebrities inject themselves with Ozempic, turning their faces into Skeletor, their bodies nothing but skin stretched across the skeleton. We've decided that's beautiful, the glam concentration camp look. We should correlate such skinniness to the Holocaust. Then maybe we wouldn't find such emaciation beautiful, but rather horrific at what humanity does to each other. What we do to ourselves. And that's sort of what my memoir attempts to explain, why we put ourselves through so much torture when it comes to appearance and weight, and how complicated and intricate our eating issues are, that they can't be simplified into a nice streamlined definition or a category of black and white symptoms. I was surprised at how many events not involving food contributed to my conclusion that the only thing I could control was what I ate. And as much as I hate to admit it, I still find myself, when I get really stressed and worried about aspects of my life for which I have no control, that suddenly I'm much more cognizant about calories and portion size and all that food noise that loves to drown out all the other good stuff in my brain. My memoir explores these complicated aspects of food and beauty and perfectionism. Thanks for watching. As always, my goal at Booksmart is to get a little bit smarter, one book at a time.